Right, lads, welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball. Myself and Shane back once again. Shane, how are you?
All good. How are you?
Good. I am good. Uh, Nothing really on at the moment, other than, well, obviously the Irish sports they're too far along for me, to be honest. At this point, I think they should be going on later into the summer, but yeah, we're already too close to the end. But yeah, last weekend,
Mm.
obviously not a nice one for you, Limerick losing to Dublin, but it was a cracking game for a neutral and pretty much
Yeah,
anybody that's not from Limerick, just to see Dublin win. But
yeah.
yeah,
The Dublin were deserved winners, in fairness, but they had to look at this Limerick team gave us seven really, really incredible years, and they are allowed to have a down year. Geez, they had an awful run there. They lost their last three, lost to Clare, lost to Cork, and lost to Dublin. Then, but
yeah.
they'll be back next year. They'll be back next year,
Well, they need to change
hopefully.
some of their outlook from the start of games anyway if they're going to do better next year. They were very lax in that first half, and then the second half they were panicking a lot. I thought the mistakes were very unnecessary. Like,
Yeah, their shooting has been a bit wayward all year as well, but it's particularly bad in that first half there, and taking on shots from just needlessly tight angles. I know they go over and they look incredible when they go over, but just taking far too many risks on them really.
yeah, yeah. And suppose then looking outside of that, there's only the Club World Cup. I actually watched one game of it the other night with my uncle, and it was absolutely awful. The
You're a
two of us were like,
sellout. You're a
we were,
sellout.
we were like, what is this? Because there was literally nothing else on, so we are like, stick on Benfica there and PSG, and
Oh,
it was like, right, give it a go. That was pure awful. Like the team, I think, to be honest, they actually would have they actually were trying. No, sorry, not Benfica and PSG, Benfica and Bayern, and I think they were trying, but they actually couldn't try any harder than they were because it was literally like 36 degrees Celsius,
yeah,
and
it's
they
mad.
looked like they were melting. Like, it's outrageous to be playing in that heat after a long season. So I kind of felt for them watching that, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. I would like to actually see PSG and Inter Miami though on the weekend just because of the whole messy side of things. So might stick
Yeah,
that
it's
on.
the
But
first time he's playing against one of his former clubs. Isn't that mad?
that's crazy. So he never played against Barca in the Champions
No,
League.
never played against Barca, and he's never played against PSG. Obviously, this will be his first time playing against one of his former clubs.
It's mad, yeah. See, like I suppose he was with PSG or Barca for such a long time, and then he went to a
Mm,
different country. But you just expect these guys to overlap in the Champions League.
yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a bit crazy. But
Yeah,
a lot to
one more thing before we move on then. The Liverpool vice captain curse has struck again, this time to the women's team. Tyler Hines, now she is some woman for one woman, but she's after leaving Liverpool to go and join Arsenal, unfortunately.
oh, not a nice move.
Now, in fairness, now it's not like Joe, she's not going from a team at the top of the game like Liverpool were when Trent left, and she's going to the European champions, but it's still that nice to see when the women's team can't hold on to the players when the men's team are throwing money around left, right, and centre. But it mightn't be anything they could have done either. Could have been one that was just, I'm going to the European champions. See you later. But
Yeah,
bad times as
yeah.
well.
It's some of the clubs. I don't know how often this is the case, but I know like especially with United, it's pretty bad the level of investment and time that
Mm,
they've put in to the women's team, especially when Ineos came in. They've like made it clear that they weren't really interested in putting money into that side of things because the men's team is their moneymaker. When the women's
yeah,
team won the FA Cup last year, and it's not like they won it like United did, like after having a horrible season, they still finished like I think fourth or fifth, and like they're
yeah. They
up
finished
around
in the
that
top
level.
four anyway. Yeah,
Yeah, but with like the season before as well, they had a good finish with that FA Cup win. So like they were one of the only teams to really put it up to Chelsea that whole season. So I think, yeah, I don't agree with that, especially when they are so talented. Not that to say if the team was weaker they shouldn't invest, they still should, but especially not considering those circumstances. But yeah, that's a topic for another day, I guess, because
mm, yeah.
we have a lot to get into
Well, yeah,
today.
yeah.
So let's start with the NBA. obviously last night there was the NBA draft was the first round on Wednesday night. So we're recording this on Thursday as usual. Second round of the draft is late tonight, so you guys will know the crack with the second round. But with the NBA, it's a lot of focus on the first round. It's not like the NFL. So there might not be that many takeaways or big trades unless it's really outside of the draft scope tonight. So we should have pretty much everything covered off that we need to. So first of all, we're going to look at the first round. Obviously, the finals ended last week. OKC are now the champions, and we will do a proper deep dive on that, but we want to hit the most breaking news first. So let's look at the draft to begin with. I'm just going to rattle off the top 10,
Yeah.
and then we'll go back to who you think stands out of those. So, first of all, the Mavericks picked Cooper Flag. No surprises there. The Spurs drafted Dylan Harper, which was also kind of a shoe-in. Then from there is kind of where it started, that people thought things might move, maybe some trades. We didn't see many trades at all on draft night, but we had the Sixers selecting VJ Edgecombe. Hornets drafted Con Knuppel. The Jazz selected Ace Bailey. Wizards selected Trey Johnson. The Pelicans drafted Jeremiah Fears. The Nets drafted Igor Demin. The Raptors drafted Colin Murray Boyles. And then the Rockets drafted Kaman Malawach, but that was for the Suns because they traded it. So in the NBA, if you don't know, sometimes if teams trade the pick to somebody else, the team that had the pick initially has to call in the pick for them. The guy has to go on the stage, put the hat on of the team that he knows he's never going to play for, which is what happened with that pick. So that is kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, what stood out to you with the first 10 anyway?
That would just, if when you explained that to me this morning, it sent me to the moon. It just I can't believe they make him do that still. It's 2025. Like everyone knew that pick was going to Phoenix.
Yeah,
Like everyone knew he was going to the Suns. Like bring them on stage wearing a Rockets hat to then say, okay, now go and get your son's jersey number if you don't mind.
yeah, it's so crazy.
Oh, I don't know.
But I
The
think that
one that
was a
stood
great
out for
pick
me
though.
was, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the Rockets did very well there picking up Kevin Durant. Yeah, I believe he's probably going to be a superstar. Like as you said, like the draft didn't really start until the third pick because the first two were always kind of they were shoe-ins really. That
Mm-hmm.
Flag was going there and Harper was going to the Spurs.
Yeah.
Ace Bailey is an interesting case study, I think. The fact that he wanted to go nowhere and ended up somewhere he really, really didn't want to go. Like if you really didn't want to go somewhere that bad, then just do another year of college. You're only 18 and wait and see if there's someone that's picked your fancy next year.
Mm.
Uh, but like he turned down workouts with the Jazz, turned down workouts with the 76ers, and then the Jazz are like, "Do you know what? Just to know you now, we're going to pick you and see what you can do about it." But
Yeah, I think he was in a
oh,
whoever's around him is advising him really badly because the way he's handling the media too, he's giving these ridiculous cryptic answers, and it's like Michael Scott, like he doesn't even know where the sentence is
mm,
going himself. He's just going to find it along
yeah,
the way, and he just repeats the same thing because he's obviously been told, "Oh, just say you're focused on your basketball. You don't care about the teams who picked you." But
mm,
he even said that after the team picked him, like you're there now, but
yeah,
like you have to, like they're after picking you. You're gonna go there. That's the way it works. But like the fact he turned down draft the I think the Sixers may have selected him, but always in my mind, he's not the type of player that Daryl Morey would select. And like Edgecombe was the perfect pick in my eyes. That he has that explosive play, but he's excellent defensively as well, and he seems like an incredibly hard worker. So
mm,
to me, that was a great pick, and that was I don't think it was ever going to be Bailey there because the stats are kind of not there. Whereas Daryl Morey likes a guy who he can rely on in multiple ways. He's not going to pick up this kind of project player. He never really has done that. So I thought,
yeah.
yeah, that was, and especially with Nick Nurse as well, fitting into a defensive system. Yeah, so I thought that was good. One I really liked was the Hornets picking Con Knuppel. Like that's pretty high. People were saying
Mm.
earlier he's going to go outside the top 10, then he moved higher and higher. So he's obviously really impressive in interviews. And I heard him interviewed, obviously with teams, but I heard him interviewed on Bill Simmons' podcast, and he came across like really, really well. So I think he's probably made a really good impression on people, and he fits in well to that team. But I don't know, did you see after the Raptors selected Colin Murray Boyles, he just stood up and like the camera is on you after you get picked, and he literally just shook his head and he was like literally just like F bombed right at the camera on him. Like
Like all the attitudes that some of these lads have, it's like you're going living your dream. Okay, you have to go and do it in Canada. but
Yeah.
you're still getting paid a pretty penny to go and play for a team that not too long ago was like they were in a shout of winning championships. So
Hmm.
I don't see why. Like again, as you said, it must be down to the people who are advising them. Like Joe,
Yeah.
everyone knows how the draft works. You're not going to be drafted in the top 10 by the Warriors or by OKC. It's not how it works. Like it's the worst
Yeah.
team to get the picks first.
Yeah.
If you're good, then you're like make yourself the face they want to build around. Be the person that this team builds their future around. That you eventually do win a title there. But
Yeah. To me, for
I
The
don't know.
Raptors signify a good team for that too, because I know
Mm,
it's far away to say that anybody's going to turn into Kawhi because of how good he is. But like when he went there, the whole country loved him, and you're
yeah,
basically the face of the whole country for that. Like obviously they have their own players like from there, but in terms of who everybody looks at, it was Kawhi, and everybody loved him.
mm,
And I don't think he should have left when he did because he had a good thing going there. And we've seen how it's gone since then. But you should have that in your mind as something you can do. Obviously, not all these guys are interested in that, but I think with Bailey, what he wanted was a team who could guarantee that he would be their star and the guy who could do everything rather than as part of a unit, which is an awful way to be only going into the
an
league.
awful attitude. Yeah,
So, I think with the Jazz, that's not going to be the case because they're building something there and they have Markkinen already and they have some other guys that are probably going to get, Walker Kessler is already ahead of you in terms of he's been there for a year. So he wanted to go to the Nets, I think, because obviously New York, but secondly, he could have been the main guy on that team.
yeah,
But then they picked five people last night in the first round instead of trading any of those
yeah.
picks, which is crazy because you're not going to play five rookies. So even that might not have worked. But the couple of other things maybe that stood out later on into the round was then the Blazers drafted Cedric Coward, but then they traded him to the Grizzlies. So the trade was, let me get it up here.
Yeah, so I have it there. So it was Memphis got Cedric Howard and Portland got the 2025 number 16 pick. So they got Yang Hansen, a 2028 first round pick via Orlando and two second round picks as well
Okay, interesting. That's a lot to give up. But
for a
not
rookie.
it's not as much as we saw later on from the Pelicans, who made one of the most
Mm,
ridiculous decisions I've seen in a long time in the NBA draft. So, what they did was they said, look, Atlanta, we're going to move up to 13th here because we really want to pick Derek Queen, who I've heard a lot of people say some good things about. I don't know a whole lot about him. I really only looked into some of the guys at the top and then some of the sleeper names, but he was getting mentioned a good bit. But to move up from I think where they were 23rd, I think in the pick,
yeah,
in the
23. Yeah,
yeah. So from 23 to move up to 13, they gave up their next year first round pick. You're only
mm,
moving up to 13. You're not moving up to second or third in the draft, and you're going to be bad next year.
crazy.
So to unprotect that pick, you're basically going to give up a first 10 next year because there's no way they're going to be good next year. And for what a number
Yes.
13 makes no sense.
Yeah, so the pick for next year is the more favorable pick of the New Orleans or Milwaukee. So,
Yeah.
but I'd like it's not gonna be a top 10 pick. Like
No. Well, no, well,
it surely won't be.
it will be. I think. I think it will be a top 10 pick, and they've given it away to the Hawks because
Oh, sorry. Yes,
yeah. So
apologies. Yeah,
yeah, so they've given away like the worst, the better pick, if you like, or the
yeah,
worst.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Whichever team is worse, basically, you're going to get their pick. Next year the Hawks are so, like the Hawks are absolutely laughing because they just only moved back 10 spots in a range of a draft where you can actually pick up someone very good in the 20 range compared to like the 13 range. There's not much of a drop off there really in the NBA draft.
Mm,
Quite often it's a bit of a toss up once it gets past the top three or four, right? So I think giving up that much is very, very risky, especially when you're probably going to be bad again next year. So you would want to keep your own pick. So there's a lot of pressure on them now, and Derek Queen would want to perform very well for
yeah.
this to be worth it. But I
And
thought,
there was two other ones then as well. Sacramento and Oklahoma swapping the 24th pick for 2027 top 16 protected, and the Utah Jazz swapping getting Walter Clayton for four picks as well. So 2025 number 21, number 43, and then 2031 and 2032 second rounds as well. So a
Yeah.
lot of teams making some very fishy moves, really.
Yeah, I think the ones that include second rounders, it's so hard to gauge them. Like, because
Yeah,
I feel like see some teams don't value them at all, and other teams value them a lot, and they want to hoard them and try and get more guys. So it's quite interesting when it's in the NBA because it's very different to the NFL draft the way teams approach it. One thing towards the back end of the draft that I thought was very probably one of the most interesting parts to me was the Suns. Obviously, they got Malawach with that number 10 pick that you guys had to pick for him in the Rockets.
mm,
But then late in the draft, they traded away pick 29. So they sent pick 29 to the Hornets and their 2029 first round pick also for Mark Williams. So I think that's actually very, very interesting because now they've got from having basically no center at all to having two really talented big men who are, you know, like Malawach looks very good. He's very raw,
yeah,
obviously coming out of college, but he's huge. He's like 7'2" and he has like a 7'7" wingspan. And then
mm,
looking at Mark Williams as well, who obviously last year the Lakers wanted him after they got Luka. So it's
yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting to have two big men. I think I like the way that I like the way that they've gone about it now from kind of changing this strategy. So maybe Booker will stick around if they have a bit of a project and an idea in mind.
Yeah, maybe. I think they needed to do something, especially after trading away Kevin Durant as well, where it's kind of they needed to do something that would show the fans that we're not just going to sit on our hands here now and just waste the rest of Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Right? Like Mark Williams is a good center. Like there's a
Hmm.
reason the Lakers wanted him. They thought he was a center that could bring them to a title.
Hmm.
And then you have the new pick learning under him as well for a year or two before taking over.
Yeah.
I thought it was smart, and
Yeah.
They didn't give up too much either.
No.
Um,
Just a
give up
first rounder and
Mikic,
29
yeah,
and the very end of the draft. Like,
yeah, and Mikic.
yeah. Vasily
Honestly, I
Micic.
don't even know
Yeah.
who he is. Yeah,
No,
so
he's kind of an NBA nerds. Someone like if you're really into the NBA, you gotta know about him. But yeah,
okay,
like in general, fans don't know about some of these guys that are getting thrown around in these trades, I think. And often there's a reason behind that, not to be too harsh on some of these guys. But yeah, I think let's see what happens now. I think that a lot of this is going to be up to the next couple of years. We're going to see some guys that went in the 10s and the 20s break out and be very good. I'm really excited for the top, I think, four guys. And I'm also really excited to see Trey Johnson because I liked him a lot. And I thought if the Sixers did trade back, I would have liked them to pick him because I think he can have an impact straight away. So I like what the Wizards are building, actually. They
mm.
have a lot of good young guys, and he's another one to add to that. So looking forward to the season ahead. But some other than big moves that were, I suppose, not part of the draft at all, but happened beforehand. We had, as we mentioned before, as we talked about last week, right after the episode, the next day, the Kevin Durant trade goes down. He ended up going to the Rockets for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick, which turned into Malawach, and 5 second round picks. So, what was the feeling when that landed?
I was delighted. Like I said to you last week, I didn't want it to be a drawn out saga where we still didn't know what the story was in 2 or 3 weeks' time and everything
Mm-hmm.
was kind of up in the air. It was great to get it done so quickly. Um, I had to ask you for the calm me down a bit when I saw it was 5 second rounders, but as you said,
Mm-hmm.
it's not actually that bad. Jalen Green, as much as I loved him and I really wanted him to do well, he wasn't ever going to get better than he was. And Dylan Brooks is no loss. He just loves. Oh, he drove me insane all year, getting technical fouls left, right, and centre. So I won't miss him either, to be honest. It's great to have someone like that in Houston.
Yeah.
We've never had like since Harden and Westbrook left, we haven't really had someone who's a name. We've been building up a young core, and we
Yeah.
haven't really given up too many of the future stars. I mean, Thompson is still there. I didn't want Jabari to go. He's not. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have we have a young core now to build around with Kevin Durant, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it puts us in a really strong position for next year.
I was surprised
Obviously,
that Jabari wasn't included. That wasn't demanded.
yeah,
That at least someone like him was. So you did really well in that aspect, I think.
yeah, I think it puts us up there now as one of the top teams
Yeah,
in our
definitely.
division for next year now. So
I think you're probably the second best team in the West right now
Yeah, I
before
think
going
so
into
too.
the season. It makes a huge difference, and the fans are going to love him. So I think that's a massive upgrade, especially it's right in the position that you need it. And then to run through another few trades heavy on the Celtics. So obviously we talked about this before that they might look to shed some cap space or shed some cap heavy salary, should I say, to make cap space.
Mm.
And they did exactly that. So they got rid of Drew Holiday and they sent him to the Blazers for Anthony Simons and two second rounders. I think this works on both sides because first of all, the
Mm.
Celtics shed a big contract that they can't afford, and they get in Simons for 1 year, and if he does well, they can sort out a contract with him. If not, then they can part ways with him because he's expiring after this year. He's a good 3 point shooter. They need 3 point
Yeah,
shooters. They love to shoot threes. And then also Holiday heading to the Blazers. I think it's good because they need kind of an all head on that team, and they're good defensively, so he'll only improve that. So I actually do like that as well for their perspective. And
yeah,
then also looking at another move the Celtics made, three-way trade between three teams: Boston, Atlanta, and Brooklyn. So this basically the headline of this was Chris Stapps and a second rounder went to the Hawks. Terrence Mann and Atlanta's number 22 pick to the Nets, and George Niang and a second rounder to the Celtics. So more 3 point shooting for the Celtics, and Chris
yeah.
Stapps is going to head over to the Hawks to play alongside Trey Young.
Yeah, I think they're all good moves. I think Porzingis definitely needs to move on as well, and I don't think they trust him as much as they did anymore. And especially now when they have probably lost Jason Tatum for all of, if not most of next year, they needed someone to step in and kind of put the points up that he's not going to be able to do. Obviously, when he's sitting on the sidelines, I think it's smart from the Celtics. They had a
Yeah,
decent year, obviously, but they can be better. So we'll see if this helps them.
yeah, I think they're just looking to get by this next year because I think like Chris Stapps and Drew Holiday are obviously like more talented than Niang and Simons, but these two guys feed into what the Celtics want to do, and they're probably looking to shoot a lot next year and try and put up as many points as possible because I can't see them finishing any higher, even if the East is weak after these two trades and Tatum being injured. I can't see them finishing any higher than like a fifth seed. So I think this is just a
No,
kind of a cover off for a year, save yourself some money, and then you can go make some moves next off season when Tatum comes back. So
exactly.
then outside of that, then I think the only other one that's kind of note was looking at the Pelicans. They traded CJ McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second rounder to the Wizards for Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, and the number 40 pick. To me now, I don't know if this makes it make more sense or less sense what they did in the draft because suddenly now you have Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey. I actually like Bey. I don't know how Poole is going to work out there when you've already, I don't know, you've got Zion who's unreliable. I really like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, but like I don't know, are they going to still look to move them because there's words being said around that? I don't really understand at all what they're doing. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Can you wrap your head around it?
To be honest, no. Jordan Poole has turned into such a journeyman after such a promising start. And then now it's actually like nobody wants him. Everywhere he goes, he seems to be just getting turfed out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the New Orleans are going to do much in him either. As you said, they have loads of players that unless they're going to move them around, then I don't see like he'll be a sixth man maybe. I think Sadiq
Yeah,
Bey is good, but I think giving up CJ McCollum to get in Jordan Poole is a strange move unless it's contract based. But
yeah, but again, I,
you
I
know,
don't. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like they're kind of shedding some of the older guys, trying to move younger. The whole thing makes no sense to me. But I really like what
mm,
the Wizards have done because, like, they've gone and grabbed some more expiring contracts. So after this season, like I'm pretty sure at the end of this season, CJ, Kelly Olynyk, Chris Middleton, who they already have there, Malcolm Brogdon, and somebody else. I think they're all going to be expiring. So like they've got all these young guys now, and they might keep a couple of those guys around, whoever they see fits the most. So I actually really like what they're doing. I think it's like going to be
mm,
over 120 million per year gone off the books once all those guys leave. So they're being very smart,
mad.
just
Yeah.
taking these expiring contracts, looking to build for the future. So I really like what they're doing. Actually, in fairness to them, I think they need their props for the way they're running things. But
Yeah, I think the maddest part about all this is there was no talk at all about Giannis. Like there was no team giving up their first or second or third picks and a couple of other things to get in Giannis. So
Yeah,
that's a trade now that's probably going to go down to the wire. It's going
yeah.
to be next year picks or a load of players. And I wonder if the Desmond Bain thing has messed it all up as well, which we spoke about last week, where no one,
Mm,
everyone's like, "Geez, what's the market now? What do we do here? If Desmond Bain is five first round picks, what are we going to do to Giannis?" So
yeah,
it's that's one we'll have to wait and see what happens now.
I think judging as well by some of the things Giannis has been saying, it looks like he's going to stay there. Now, it it makes, as I said already, kind of it makes so much sense for the Bucks to hold on to him at least until when teams get more desperate, and then try and grab him.
Yeah,
So maybe that's what they're doing. But I listened to an interview or podcast with Doc Rivers. He was also on Bill Simmons about a week back. I was telling you there was actually some interesting bits on
yeah,
there. But there was one he was talking about Giannis, and the two of them kind of discussed the fact that like the East is going to be weaker next year. It was kind of more pushed by Bill. Obviously, Doc isn't going to go and say that, but he's kind of saying, you have the best player in the East, so why would you let him leave when you don't know how the East is going to pan out? You might as well give it a go with him,
mm,
and I think that's the smart thing to do. So I think
yeah. Probably
I
makes
don't
more sense.
yeah, I don't think we'll see him move unless there's a massive, massive deal before the deadline. But I don't think we'll see him move until maybe later this year. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of moves in the NBA, a lot of stuff going on with the draft. As I said, next week we'll break down how the NBA finals went and what our last thoughts, because I think we kind of need more time to even think about that after the way it ended for
Yeah,
Halliburton and stuff. So we'll get into that next week. Then we're gonna do what we've done the last few weeks, and we will continue to do. We're gonna preview two more teams for the football. So we'll start. We're down to team who finished fourth last season and the team who finished 17th last season, which is it's mad to say because these are two of the bigger teams in the league, and one of them finished 17th. But let's
yeah.
get going first with Chelsea. I'll throw the first question to you. It's where do they need to improve most from last season?
So there was a lot here that annoys me about Chelsea. We've said it now over the last couple of weeks, but when I was trying to just dig down into something they could improve on outside of not signing 500,000 players every single summer, I noticed it was the amount of draws they had. They had nine draws and nine losses in the league last year.
Mm-hmm.
If they turned some of those nine draws into some more wins, like there was no way Man City should be finishing third in the league last year after the run they went on towards the middle of the season. Someone like Chelsea should have had enough. And even Arsenal drew 14 games. How are Chelsea not closer to them? If they can turn some of those tighter games into wins um, with a new striker or wingers that score goals or anything really, stop conceding, then I think they've a good chance of getting in the top three again for next season. But yeah, I think like they drew nil all with Brentford. Like that shouldn't be happening when you're spending so much money on strikers and wingers and attacking midfielders.
Yeah, what I had was that they're going to need to work on how they utilize their squad, because last year they had the Conference League and they pretty much played like a B team, a youth team during that whole
Mm.
competition. So I think now they're in the Champions League. That's going to need first team attention. That's not going to cut it anymore what they did last year. So that's a big challenge. I think that's something I guess they need to improve on, because it's not something they had to do last year. Um, then next question is, who are the three players on their team that will make the biggest impact this season? Who have you got here?
So I have Palmer, Liam Delap, and Michael Caicedo. I
Okay.
think Caicedo last year was incredible. Um, I'm not Cole Palmer's biggest fan, but he is the talisman for this team. I
Hmm.
think if you're building a team around him, though, you're not going to win a title with him as your main man. But I think he is still the main man for him at the moment. And I just put Liam Delap in there because Nicholas Jackson, you can't trust him, and they do need a striker that can score a couple of goals. So he might be able to provide it for him.
Yeah, I've
I
actually
also
gone.
hate all their defenders.
Yeah, you weren't going to go and pick Cucurella now anyway, were you? But
No.
I think I picked two of the same. So I went with Palmer because I want to see him on the Champions League level. I think that's going to be an interesting one
Hmm.
to watch this season, how he performs there again. And then Caicedo I also picked. And one of the reasons I picked him was not only because of how good he was last season, but because of the third guy I picked, which is Romeo Lavia. I really, really like him, and I hope he gets more game time. I think if he stays fit, he could be really important for this team. I like the way he plays. Whenever I watch him, I just think he's such a good, athletic, talented player, and he has a good control. He has good ability on the ball as well as to win the ball back. And I think next to Caicedo, just an engine in that midfield. I think that would really, really work for them if the two of them can play together.
Yeah, I think his biggest issue is that he can't stay fit though. Now
Yeah,
maybe a full preseason might help him this year, but like he was injured for all of his first season and then nearly injured for all of last season as well.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's the big caveat here, I guess.
yeah.
So
So
I
we'll
think,
see. I do think he's class as well. Liverpool were looking at him. I really want them to get him. So
yeah,
I can't really turn around now and say that I think he's rubbish, because when he's clearly not. I think he's a really, really solid footballer.
yeah, I think if he is fit, then they'll be in a very good position in that midfield. But again, he might not be able to make much of an impact if he's not fit. So the next thing then is what's the ceiling of the team with their current manager and squad and for the season ahead. So I've gone with fourth place. I think they can't finish any higher than last season because I just don't think they have enough to do so, despite all the money they've spent. And I think the lack of a clear striker who's kind of proven at this level, they have Delap and Jackson. I think both of them are on quite a similar level, to be honest. And being back in the
Mm.
Champions League is going to take a lot out of them too. So keeping all that in mind, I think the best they can do is fourth. What have you gone with?
I said Champions League place and a domestic cup. But I said as well they can't really finish any higher than they did this year, and especially if they keep up this model they have of just kind of just churning over young wingers and oh he's not good enough, let's bring in the next best 18-year-old. If you're going to stay going with that, you're always going to be in a project cycle. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll get forward because they do have good players, but they won't be pushing anywhere near to a league title anytime soon.
No, I don't think so either. And then, what's one piece of business do you think that's going to help them the most if they did it before the season starts?
They need a centre back that's not called Tosin, Shalaba, or Paddy Chile.
Well, look, I think I actually like Shalva, but it doesn't seem like they like him that much, to be honest.
No.
And they obviously still have Caldwell and Fofana there, but again, if Fofana can stay fit is another story again.
Mm.
It seems like there's a lot of issues around fitness, but I've gone with what I put first was it's hard to believe that they need to even do any more business considering how much money they've
Yeah.
spent. But I think they need a new keeper if they don't believe in any of the backups to Sanchez, because I think Sanchez is utterly useless, to be honest. He can do some amazing things, make some amazing saves, but he makes the most ridiculous mistakes for absolutely no reason. And if they don't believe in him or any of the backups they have, then they're going to need to get somebody else in. But I think they stick with him
Yeah.
because it seems like they like him. But in my opinion, that's what they need to do.
I was going to go with goalkeeper, but I think for at least four of the teams have already said that they need a goalkeeper, and not everyone can sign a goalkeeper. There literally isn't enough goalkeepers to go around, so
Yeah,
they had to go with something else here. I think all their keepers, despite the fact again they signed four goalkeepers last summer transfer window, I'm pretty sure, and none of them were fancied for the first team role. So I don't know, they're mad.
makes no
They're
sense.
actually just mad.
Makes no sense, and it's funny to have a laugh at it too, more than anything. But moving
Yeah.
on then to Spurs, who outrageously finished 17th last year, but yet won the Europa League. They're our next team to look at. So they also have Champions League football. I'll take the first question this time. Is where do they need to improve most from last season? I said they need to be more solid defensively. Obviously, bringing in Thomas Frank will completely shift the way they play from how Ange had them set up. So ultimately,
Hmm.
that will probably take 20 goals conceded off straight away because they had 65 last year, which is just outrageous. So I think,
Crazy.
yeah, I think Frank will help a lot with them. I think overall, I think he's going to be brilliant for them because he's a great manager. But yeah, that's the main thing for me they need to improve on.
Yeah, I said the same. Defending is a clear weakness, and they need to tighten up. Scoring goals wasn't an issue for them. They were level with Arsenal for goals scored for nearly all of the season. It's just, as you said, 65 goals conceded is just mental.
Yeah, yeah. So then looking at which players are you think will make the biggest impact under the new manager this season ahead, who have you gone with?
So I have Matthias Tell, Pedro Porro, and James Madison, especially if he does what I think he's going to do and goes to a back three full time. I think having Tell and Madison as the tens behind a striker, or maybe even Tell up front if Brian Bueno ends up there instead of United, and then Pedro Porro as a right wing back, I think is perfectly suited to it.
No need to even mention that because Mbuemo's going to end up at United. He is en route currently, so don't be saying any of that nonsense around here. I've gone
My
a little bit
apologies.
different. I've gone with Van de Ven because I think under Frank he's going to be really he's already really good, but I think he's just going to be
Mm.
super with him as the manager. I think he's going to help him out a lot. Second, I've gone with Sarr because I think I really liked his engine, and I think he's one of their best players last year in the middle. So I think he's going to be good in this system too. And then thirdly, I went with Kulishevsky. If he continues to play a little bit deeper in midfield, I think he could really help out a lot too. So those three guys are people I think would really work not only next season for Spurs, no matter what, but also for the new manager specifically. Um, so then looking at the ceiling with the new manager and the squad, what have you gone with for the season ahead?
Uh, so top seven, try and get back into Europe through the league, not just needing to win a competition, and see if they can win a cup again and just build some momentum of this. Like to try and get rid of the Spurs bottlers tag. It didn't win two trophies in 2 seasons. Look at what winning the Carabao Cup meant to Newcastle. Like if
Mm-hmm.
Spurs can go and do that or win the FA Cup, finish in the top seven, then I think that'll be a really good year for them, especially the low bar they're coming from as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a good enough shout. I've gone with something similar. To be honest, I went with sixth place, because I think just playing with champion back in the Champions League is going to take a lot out of him. And then obviously Frank has never managed a team kind of on this level with that high hopes, and he's never managed a team, expecting to even do well in the European competition either. So I think that's going to be hard on them. I think they will focus on the Premier League, but I think it's going to be hard to finish anything higher than sixth.
Hmm.
And then what one piece of business do they need to do to help them? I said that they need more depth at the attacking midfield or like wing options that can add kind of some output in the Premier League, which I think is a reason that going after Eze is a very smart move, if they get that over the line. But that's going to be hard with Palace.
Yeah, I said a hard tackling centre mid, so someone again to add depth, kind of set the tone. Because God knows Basuma is not doing it from like, so they need someone who's better than Basuma to kind of set the tone from a midfield. I think Eze would be a great bit of business for them, but as you said, it's impossible with Palace. They're really, really hard to negotiate with.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think like someone in that kind of vein in midfield would be good next to Sarr as well. So I like that. Obviously, that is the idea, I guess, with Basuma or Bentancur. But again, Basuma's not living up to it, and Bentancur can't stay fit, so
Mm.
it's kind of tough. But that's our look ahead at the season ahead and what the two teams really need to do. But moving on from that into the stuff that's actually going on in the transfer window, our weekly roundup of what's gone on. um, I'll list out a couple. Let me know what you think. So Arsenal focus first, I guess. First of all, they're looking at a deal to sign Christian Mosquera. I believe there was a deal. I'm not sure what the other team was that was looking at him, but something has broken down around that in the last day or so. Something to do with wages or something like that. I can't remember which team it was, but now he's someone that Arsenal are looking at. I've heard a lot of good things about him. I've seen some kind of compilations of his defending at Valencia. 20 years old, looks very, very good. Of course, Arsenal want to sign another centre back. The second one is them being in progress to sign Christian Norgard. Obviously, after signing Zubimendi, of course, they need another defensive midfielder. A very smart bit of business, I think, though, in fairness to Arsenal, to sign him for such a low price, given he's been
Mm.
proven in the Premier League. And I think Brentford are slowly coming to pieces after losing Frank. And if Keith Andrews ends up there, it's going to be a tough go for him. But those are two bits that Arsenal seemingly look to be working at. What do you make of that?
Does Christian Norgard take the long throws for Brentford? Is this why they're signing him? To kind of, we already have the corners knocked out. Can we get Christian Norgard to take these long throws for us now as well? Um, Okay, I agree with you that I think Christian Norgard is actually a smart bit of business.
Yeah.
They've lost Jorginho and they're probably losing Thomas Partey as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they did need a body in that midfield. I just don't like it. They just
Yeah,
always seem to concentrate in the wrong areas. They're going after like Christian Orgard. No one else is looking at Christian Orgard. Why are you working on it so early? Why aren't you working on getting Seshko in there, working on getting a winger in? Go back for
mm,
Norgard in the middle of July. I don't get it. And of course, they're another centre back because they have four already at least, and they need a
yeah.
fifth one because
Well, they
I
have
don't know.
centre
I
backs
just
playing
hate them.
all over the spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like you're still
Oh,
looking at
they're just
you're
some
still looking at
madness.
like currently like top level centre backs that they have are Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, Calafiori, Timber. These are all
Here we
guys who
are.
are yeah, and these are all guys who are supposed to be like starting caliber Premier League players. So you're going to bring in another centre back. Like you said, I think they should focus on what they really need, which is goals. But anyway,
Yep.
that's kind of been a theme. Another club then was looking at Newcastle. Ornstein reported that they made an offer to sign Alanga, around 45 million. Obviously, Forest want a lot more than that because I believe Newcastle offered like 70 million for him on deadline day. I don't know, in January or before
Okay.
that, and it got turned down. Apparently, so yeah.
Well,
So obviously they're going to want more than that. And then the second one is James Trafford looks to have agreed personal terms with Newcastle, but there's nothing yet on the fee. And we spoke, well, we both spoke about him, but I've kind of said that he's probably going to be uh, Burnley's most important player coming into the preview, and how good he's been, and they need to hold on to him. But looks like he might be heading to Newcastle. So, what do you think of those two pieces of business?
I think he's a great signing for Newcastle, James Trafford. I don't think they're getting the Langa, so I don't think there's no. I don't really think there's a point in joining on it. They're not going to pay the 75 or 80 million for him. He's not worth that.
No, no,
James
you're right.
Trafford's a good bit of business. Burnley signed his replacement today as well. I think or yesterday. So they know he's gone as well. So
Okay.
I think if they can get 35 or 40 million for him, then I think they're in dreamland really. But
Yeah,
he will be a big loss after what he did for him last season. I thought he was excellent.
yeah. I think he was superb, and it's a good bit of business for Newcastle. I think, yeah, definitely. A couple more then on the Premier League front. Looking at Twanzebe going undergoing a medical at Burnley to go from Ipswich. I think he got a new contract offer to him at Ipswich, but he I don't think he agreed it. So he's looks like he's going to head to Burnley. I like that move because I actually like him. I liked him when he was in the youth setup at United. I thought he would break through, but never really worked out. So I think a good bit of business from Burnley. And then another one on the Premier League front is looks like your Liverpool are finally, after wrapping up the Kirkes deal. Look like we knew that for a while, but
Yeah.
it's finally confirmed. So I'm sure you're a happy man with that one.
Yeah, thank God it's finally done because I still get throwbacks to when Nabil Fekir was doing his media duty and the move fell through. So when everything pointed to it being announced yesterday, I was like, why hasn't it been announced? Has he failed his medical? But thankfully it was announced this morning now. So it's
Mhm.
annoying me a little bit, and this is something that would only annoy me, but Liverpool can't announce squad numbers until the deal with Adidas starts on the 1st of August.
Oh,
I just want to know what squad numbers we're in,
that's
because they don't want
interesting.
people buying, yeah, they don't want people buying Nike jerseys and putting Fierts or Frimpong on them, so you have to
Mm,
wait for squad numbers until the 1st of August. It's
it's a bit
annoying me
mad.
that we've now signed five lads and I don't know what squad numbers any of them are. I'm
Yeah,
trying
that
to
is
work out if is McAllister going to give up to number 10 and go to number 6? Is Frimpong just going to take number 30 like he wore his last of? I don't know.
is
So I
11
have to wait till
available,
August.
or Salah's 11.
No,
Sorry.
Salah's 11. Yeah.
And Nunes is 9, right?
Yeah, well, he'll be gone, but number 9 will
Yeah.
be kept for Alex Isak.
All right, of course, yeah. Still holding on to that one. A couple of more, just to wrap up, then kind of European ones that I thought stood out a bit. One is Pogba getting back on the scene, signing with Monaco until 2027. So it's a bit interesting to see him back on the go. I'm
Mm.
sure he still has a good few years left in him. I loved him at United, and I thought he had a bad time with injuries and how he was treated by the media. Incredibly talented player. And
Yep.
then a second one is more funny than anything because I saw so Alvaro Morata looks like he's going to Como. Looks like they've agreed to take on the same conditions of the loan, plus buy clause that Galatasaray had in January. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. But I saw someone tweet that does Morata know that it's not compulsory to take part in every single transfer window? But I
Yeah,
thought
I know.
like every single window he's on the move. Like,
he, he's always the center of attention for someone. Um, this whole like I saw this thing years ago where was he the money laundering exercise at the big clubs? He just continues to prove that he is like every single. If it's not summer or January, he moves once a year at this stage. Like it's
Yeah,
really
yeah, it's
impressive, and fair play to him. He's somehow still the captain of Spain,
yeah, and
and he's going to be going playing for Como.
in the Euros, he was when they won it, he was unreal, like the work ethic and everything. And then at club level,
Mm,
he doesn't put in near that amount of effort. So
yeah,
it's a
oh,
funny
he's
one.
mad.
One I haven't added here, but I want to know from your perspective, what's going on with Mark Gahey to Liverpool? I heard some stuff about that, so I don't know. I didn't look into it, but what's the crack with that
There
one?
was a lot of talk about this last week, but it's gone very quiet again this week. Now Liverpool do try and do things quietly as well, and if it's gone quiet, that normally is a good sign. But Kwanzaa's gone now to Bayer Leverkusen for 35
Hmm.
million, and
Yeah.
Mark Guehi is out of contract at the end of this season coming, and won't sign a new deal, so Palace will need to sell him.
Hmm.
Apparently, he's interested. Liverpool are interested, so I think it's about agreeing a fee that's reasonable for a player in his last year of his contract,
Yeah.
and get him in then as third choice.
Yeah, I'd say that if you've got him, like, I think he'll probably end up playing ahead of Kanate before the end of the season because
Yeah, he could very well. Yeah.
I just think he's quality and you need the depth, as we kind of mentioned that was a thing you needed going into this new season. But if you manage
Mm.
now, Kirkez is done, Frimpong done, Vert's done. If you manage to get Gahey and a good striker, what an absolute cracker of a window that is.
Unreal.
So
Yeah, and there's
yeah.
talks of bringing in Gerald Hatto as well from Ajax as the kind of backup left back to Kirkes if Robertson and Shimikas both want to go.
Mm,
So we'll see. It's been an exciting summer so far, and hopefully it keeps up
yeah, it's complete
this kind of
turnover
way.
for you guys.
Yeah,
On the United front, then it's looks like the Embuemo thing is going slowly. A lot of fans panicking, but I don't mind that because it looks like Ineos are not going to be fleeced, and they're doing
mm,
things slowly and putting in bids when they feel like it's the right thing to do. And it looks like today there's a lot of reports that they're happy to pay the 60 million that Brentford want, and then sort out some add-ons then after that. So I think that's a good bit
okay.
of business to spend like 120 mil on two very good attacking midfielders from the Premier League that could also play striker. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And then next is going to be probably a couple of weeks of trying to get guys out before we can make more moves. So I'm happy with how things are going. A bit slower than some fans want, but I think as long as those two lads are in before the preseason starts, I'm happy enough with that as a
Yeah,
starting point.
I think that's what Liverpool are going to start doing now. They're going to try and start shifting out a couple of lads before they spend any more money. So Darwin's looking like he's going to Napoli. And that would be
Mm,
the first big one
yeah,
out the door. Get him out, and then you can kind of work from there. Then, but like at the moment, we have too many players. We can't register them all, so a good few need to be moved out before we can even think of bringing in Mark A or anyone else. To be honest.
yeah, yeah. I saw that about Darwin today, so I think that would be good to get him off the books.
Mm.
And I think Sancho as well looks like he's probably going to head to Fenerbahce because they're going to actually pay the wages he wants. So that would be good just to get that one done.
Crazy.
Some of the dead wood shifted. So yeah, it is crazy. But
Yeah.
let's move on then to our previews of the NFL teams. So we're going to wrap up the NFC North because we started last week with Lions and Bears. So we've got Vikings and Packers. Who do you want to go with first?
We'll go with the Packers first, and I'll ask you the questions there, so you can sit
Let's
back and
do it.
relax.
Let's do it.
So, where do the Packers most need to improve on from last year?
Okay, so last year, looking at their statistics and general play, they're a solid team, and statistically, they're solid as well in all facets of the game. But for me, the main thing is the interceptions from Jordan Love. I think he just throws too many needless interceptions. Now, 11 isn't an overwhelming amount, but for the number of attempts he had last season in the 15 games he played, 425 attempts, 11 interceptions. The only
Mm.
players who had a worse interception to attempt ratio were Anthony Richardson, Jameis Winston, Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, Kirk Cousins, and Gardner Minshew. So that is not company you want to be keeping. So I think for me, that is definitely the most important part of their team in this season. He needs to cut some of those needless interceptions out.
Yeah, I actually had the same thing. I couldn't really pick too many faults of them. They had a really, really good year last year. it was hard to find anything to go on, and I thought I was actually being a bit nitpicky by going after Jordan Love's interceptions, but yeah, I went for that as well.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's the most obvious
Um,
one, really.
I think it's hard to kind of look past as well because even like he was only sacked 14 times, which is really good as well.
It's really good.
Unless I gotten that wrong, but yeah, I was 14 times he was sacked as well, so I had to go with the interceptions. Three players that will make the biggest impact on their team.
So for me, I've gone with somebody who kind of falls into that. I've said Matthew Golden. So picking him in the first round, wide receiver. I think the first time they picked a wide receiver since something like 2000 in the first round. And I think he could be their new wide receiver one because that's a position that they need. They don't really have a number one guy. I know Reed is kind of the number one, but in most teams he would probably be the two. So I think, yeah, having Golden is a big one. I actually said Love himself because I think if he can cut out those needless interceptions, he can take another leap towards, an even better potential. Because I'm still not fully sold on him unless he cuts that kind of out of his game, but he's still very young. So I think if he does that, well, it would be excellent for the team. And then last, I've gone with Xavier McKinney. I just loved him when he was with the Giants, and I still have a very big soft spot for him. 8 interceptions last year, second most in the league. I'm really sad that we let him go and didn't pay him. But anyway, I'm really happy to see him doing well over there, and I think he'll have another big season.
Nice. Yeah, they're three solid picks. I've gone for Love as well as one of mine. Again, I think he has all the talent in the world if he can just sort his arm out and stop doing silly things, stop trying to overthrow to people that aren't that fast. I think he could be a real teller for him. I put in Mecole Hardman because I think he's a good, solid wide receiver. He's nothing special. If they get 6 or 7 good games out of him, it's 6 or 7 good games that they'll win, which is what they need. I think he's good. He's multiple Super Bowl winner. He's bringing a good kind of atmosphere into the dressing room, and then Golden can kind of step up and take over slowly. And then I put in Nate Hobbs as well as my last one. I just think he's a really good defensive player.
Yeah, I like the Hardman shout. Actually, it's a bit of a kind of sticks out a bit as
Mm,
one that could be a culture setter if he's taken that over from Super Bowl win. So I like that. That's a nice shout.
definitely, yeah. Um, do you think they'll hit their over or under? So their over was 9.5.
Hmm. Uh, I found this one a little bit difficult, but I don't think they will. I think they'll literally get to nine. I just can't see them getting above nine. I just think it's the schedule is so tough. Like the teams they play are so tough. Obviously their own
Mm.
division, but then even outside of that, it's I don't know. I just can't see where they get more than 9 wins, despite how good they are. I just don't think they will. I don't think they're there yet. What do you think?
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and they're going to get 10. I put in,
Mm,
I've literally written 9 or 10. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and give them the over because I couldn't see them going lower than 9 or higher than 10. I think they'll be in around that line. I think they'll just about get over. It's a
mm.
really good line, I think, for the bookies, in fairness to them.
Yeah, yeah. I think they did a really good job there. Sometimes they know exactly what they're at, and yeah, they made it in a definitely a tough one. So it's funny we ended up like just 1 win outside because I don't see them like I
Yeah,
can't really see them going for 12 wins or like falling very
no,
short of the
not.
9.5 either. So
No, definitely not. I think that they'll be there or thereabouts. If they do get more than 10, I think they'll be doing extremely well. And touching on that, what do you think their ceiling is?
I think just one step further than last year. I think they could get to the wild card game again, but I think they can win it. Obviously it's not a very high ceiling, but I think they're in a tough side of the league. They're in the same side as the likes of the Vikings, who we will touch on, and then the Lions, Eagles, and some other teams that are going to kind of hoping to be strong contenders in the Rams and even the Niners if they bounce back. So I think it's a very, very tough side of things. I think if they got a good matchup, they could win a wild card game, but that's as high as I'm going to go on them this year.
Yeah, but there's no need to say much more. I had the exact same. Just get to the wild card game and win it this year was what I put in.
Yeah, yeah, nice.
We'll continue on to the Vikings. The Vikings line for everyone is 8.5. So we'll
Nice.
get to that in a couple of minutes. But
Mhm.
where do you think they need to improve most from last year?
I think they had a pretty low tier run game. In general, they found it hard to get the run going with Aaron Jones. He had a bit of an up and down season. They had the was kind of mid-level. It was like 13th worst in the league, closer to the lower level, just less than 110 yards per game. They relied heavily on the passing game with the sixth best in the league, nearly 240 yards per game. But then when you look at a new quarterback coming in, that's not obviously going to stay the same. It may go up, it may go down, but you can't be guaranteed of what you had last year. You never can, but even less so with a new quarterback. So I think they really need to improve the running game. That's the standout for me.
Yeah, I mean, I just said that they need to improve on what Sam Darnold was giving them last year. I thought he did have a really good year, but if JJ McCarthy can do just be a step up from what he gave them, then I think their season could be anything going into next season because they have some really, really good players. They had an unbelievable regular season last year. And if
Mm-hmm.
they can just get to the playoff game, if they can win that wild card game and just kind of just see from there then.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
No, I
first
think so.
playoff game. Yeah.
Yeah.
If there were three players on their team that would make the biggest impact for you.
So falling into that last one, I've gone with Jordan Mason as the first one. I think he's a great pickup. I think he elevates them in the run game straight away. Last year, he only had 153 touches from the backfield, and he had nearly 800 yards. So I think if he can add more than that to the team with more touches, I think it would be really beneficial. Like if he had over 200 attempts, he's going to get over 1,000 yards. He has a lot of potential. I thought that was a good move. Second one is an obvious one, I guess, because I went with Justin Jefferson, but I think it's so important this year more than any because he's going to need to bail out McCarthy at times. A guy playing in his first year at quarterback is going to need all the help he can get. So I think it's going to be really important more than any other year. And then the third guy is someone I'm really excited to see when they come to Dublin, and that's Andrew Van Ginkel. I really like him. I think he was great at the Dolphins, but he's taken a massive step up now, coming over back again with his old coach on the Vikings defensive side of things. And he's kind of had a career year across his stats. So he had 79 tackles last year, which was the most he's ever had, 11.5 sacks, which is five and a half more than his previous high with the Dolphins, and then two interceptions, which he both returned for touchdowns. One, unfortunately, was against the Giants, but I really like him, and I think having him there and seeing him live in the flesh is going to be class. So that's
Mm.
another one.
Class. I actually had two of the same with you. So I had Jordan Mason, I had Mason and Justin Jefferson as well, but I have TJ Hawkinson in. And I kind
Oh,
of put
nice.
him framed for reasons that you said about Justin Jefferson, that with a basically a rookie quarterback, he's going to need someone he can count on that's going to catch badly thrown balls, for want of a better way of putting it, ones where he's under pressure and just kind of flings them up. He's going to need his tight end to be able to step up for him. So I put in TJ Hawkinson as my last pick of the three.
Yeah, I think that is definitely, especially coming off that injury too. He's going to want to have a big year. So I think yes,
Mm.
shorter passes over the middle are probably going to be more abundant now with a young quarterback. So yeah, I think that's a good shout. Moving on then to the wins. Obviously, you mentioned at the top it's eight
Yep,
and a half. What did you go with?
8.5. Yeah. I think they'll go over. I think they'll get 10 or 11. If JJ McCarthy can step up and do what everyone, he's kind of with a year on now, the expectation is higher, if anything, than it was when he came in. So if he can do what they think he can do, then I don't see why they don't get over that again because they have so many offensive weapons. They
Yeah,
can just get them working and get them right, then they shouldn't have any issues with 8.5 games.
yeah, I'm the exact same. I think the line is way too low to be honest. Getting 14 wins last year, I don't think you knock 5 wins off a team just from going from Sam
No,
Darnold to JJ McCarthy because Sam Darnold is not, you know, he's not Tom
nothing
Brady.
special.
So, he had a great season, but I think JJ can do the same, especially with Kevin O'Connell, who's an unbelievable head coach. So I think, yeah, not to spend too much time on this. I think it's pretty obvious for me that I think they will go over it. I think it's one of the safest bets.
Yeah, I think it's a mad line how low it is. Like taking, as you said, taking 5 wins off a team because they've changed their quarterback is crazy. If you put me in a quarterback, they wouldn't lose 5 more games than they did last year. So I think it's a mad line.
Kevin O'Connell going to coach
And
you up.
yeah, I'm sure he'd have no issue with it. And finally, what's their ceiling for the season ahead?
Well, I've said the NFC Championship game. I think they can get
Mm,
to the level of what the Commanders did last year. I think Kevin O'Connell is he's my favorite head coach in the league. I just think he's unreal. I love the way he coaches the team. I would love if he was my head coach at the Giants. But look, I'm happy with Dave's as well, so I can't go too far. But I think he's very good at elevating the talent on a roster, which is already very talented as it is. and they have Brian Flores there, obviously, as I mentioned already, on the defensive side of the ball. So yeah, I think there's no reason why they can't get that far. Not saying that they're not. They are going to get that far. We'll get into that later on when we predict ahead of the season which teams are going to get all the way. But I think that is a ceiling for them, despite the QB being in his first year.
Yeah, I'd the same. No, again, no point going too much into it. I said that they can definitely do, as you said, what the Commanders did last year, but I don't think they're getting the Super Bowl this year or next year, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I noted that as well, that they just don't have the QB in my eyes yet to go far enough. Now he could be
No.
the QB in 2 years, but it's not early. I mean, it is too early for him to for us to say, they're a Super Bowl team already.
Mm.
Quarterback's the most important position in the team, and we don't know enough to really go with that. So I think that's fair on both our parts, really. I guess let's wrap it up then, the way we have been doing for the last few weeks with a draft topic. So this week we've gone with the best NBA talent under 25 years of age. So we're going to draft five people each, snake style draft again. Who went first last time?
It was me, I'm pretty sure. So I think it's you up first this time.
Okay, okay, sweet. So I'm gonna go with my number one. I actually would have rather go two, but because it's tough to go first in this draft. But for me, God, I'm gonna have to go Anthony Edwards. I know you're gonna go Wemby, but I just think we're looking in this draft. We're not doing like a redraft of who's gonna win you the championship if you get this roster. I think if you're doing that, which we did before, Wemby is the obvious pick. But right now, I'm looking at the best talent under that age and how much talent Edwards has already, and how much he's shown, and how far he's taken his team already in the playoffs last year to the conference finals and making a run this year. Although they did fall fairly flat, I think he was my one pick. Although it probably is controversial.
Wow. I actually I had Edwards down to be my first pick when I was going second. But
Oh,
I obviously am going to take Wemby as
yeah.
my first pick here. I just demand the freak. He
Hmm.
really is. And hopefully he comes back from these blood clots and he's as good as he was before he left.
Yeah,
I just think he's class, and I think the Spurs are really building something special around him and bringing in a good couple of young rookies as well. They'll have a team probably all under the age of 25 next year, the year after as well, and we'll see what they can do. But I just think he's absolutely class.
yeah,
And for my
definitely.
second pick, I have Jalen Williams, just off the back of winning the championship. What a player, honestly, what a player. It's really hard to look past him. There's a couple there I was looking at, but I just had to go with him.
Yeah, I had like a list of guys sitting into the third spot, and then I was like, he just won a championship. I have to put J Dub third, but you've gone and snapped them up. So in fourth, then I'm gonna have to go with Cade Cunningham. I think first All Star appearance this year, the way he's elevated that
Mm.
Detroit team, I think there's so much he can do, and he's the type of guy who can turn into like a massive face for the league. And I really like Detroit going into next year, and I think they're going to be really, really good. And if they make a move or two, then they might be even better. But he's my second. Well, he's the fourth pick in this draft, and then
Yeah,
in fifth, I've gone with Paolo Banchero. I think there's no way he can go any longer than five. I think five is already too low for the level of his talent. I
yeah.
just think Cade is slightly above him in my opinion right now due to the shot making, but they're very similar levels. So that's my fifth pick, the fifth pick in the draft. So mine number three. Do you want him?
I want the Banchero, yeah. I'm going to stick in Tyrese Halliburton here for me as my third pick. I think the man's class, he was clutch all year for the Pacers up until obviously the unfortunate
Hold on,
injury
hold on.
in
Judge rules
was
here.
was
He's
is
not
because
under
he's
25.
25.
He's not under 25.
So
Come on now.
because he's 25, yeah, okay. Don't know about that, Judge, but okay, if that's what you're going with.
No, no, no.
I'll take
Clearly,
Sengun
it
in
would
that
be
case then.
25 or under would be a different story now. I knew you were going to try to pull this
Okay.
fast one and whip up Halliburton or something in here, but yeah, I'm not having that.
Okay, I'll take Sengun instead. So, and I need to go through my list of names here and make sure that the rest of them are all under 25 and not 25 and under.
So Shengun is your next pick. So you're
Yeah,
rolling over again.
Yeah. Oh God. 2 seconds out till
Throw out
who
your
will I
next on
take
the list.
next?
We'll see if they're 25 or not.
Can I have
You,
Franz Wagner or is he 25 as well?
no, you can have him. He's like
Okay.
23, I think.
Okay. I'll take Franz Wagner next. I'm in panic mode now.
No, I think that's a good pick. He was in my top 10 as well, and so is Şengün. Yeah, he's 23, so he's well under the
Good.
mark.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
Ideal.
you've got at least one Orlando boy there after not getting in Paolo. I'll wrap up
Yeah.
then.
I needed one after the year they had.
Yeah, I'll wrap up then with my next two picks, so 8 and 9 in the draft. My fourth and fifth, I'm gonna go with Evan Mobley. I think arguably he could have gone earlier than some of the other guys, but
Mm.
it's probably just because he's more defensive talent that it doesn't spark as much kind of enthusiasm, I guess, outside of some more of the NBA heads. But I think he's a very good player. I really like him. I think if he continues to add to his shot and his offensive game, he's going to be even better. But defensive player of the year this year, and I think he's excellent for his age. And the Cavs would be crazy if they ever consider to trade him away. And then last, there's maybe one or two better options here, but I'm going to have to go with my boy Tyrese Maxey. I'm just being a Philly fan. Have it had his jersey on today in the gym. Absolutely love him. He's my favorite player. So I'm going to have to get him in there because he's very, very talented. And he's probably like, in most people's eyes, if they were doing a top 10 ranking of players under 25, he's probably 11th or 12th. But I'm going to just sneak him a little bit higher for this exercise.
Yeah, he was born 7 months after Tyrese Halliburton, so he hasn't turned 25 yet, so he's okay.
Yes, he is absolutely okay.
Shambles, absolute shambles. The game is in disrepute now over this.
Go on, throw your last one out there.
I'm going to finish up with Lamelo Ball. I think on talent alone, not what he's even done so far. I just think he's a joy to watch. I think if he was at a top team, I think he'd be doing twice or three times what he's doing already. At a really poor team, I think he's class.
Yeah, I think that's for talent level. I think yeah, definitely, he's one that's up there. I just don't know about how. Maybe it's like you said because he's in Charlotte. He's not putting as much of an effort in as he could elsewhere. I would like to see him go elsewhere just to see if he will put that effort in because sometimes he just seems like he's messing. But I guess that can
Yeah,
happen if you're losing a lot. So um, I think one maybe honourable mention on my side anyway. I think well, two. What three? Let's double up here because I think Osser and Amen Thompson are both actually deserving of getting close to this list, but they're a bit young
yeah.
at the moment, and I don't think they're
Mm.
up there yet with some of these other guys, but they will be. And then another one, just another championship winner in Chet Holmgren. I think he's probably just outside this. I think he's on talent alone, he's probably like third or fourth, but he's obviously missed a lot of time, so it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So, but
I was
yeah,
really hoping I could sneak Kevin Durant in there, but I think he's just after turning 26 there a couple of weeks ago.
yeah, I think he's a little bit old. Not too much, but
Yeah, a small bit.
he's just after getting a little bit too old for this exercise. I think if we had Michael on, he'd probably try and sneak in LeBron.
Oh, I'm
But
sure he would, yeah.
what about your boy Bronny? Why wasn't he included here? I thought you loved him.
Oh, yeah, Joe, I actually just forgot he existed, and I was really enjoying my summer without him. Oh, I'm sure he'll crop up again next year. Joe, he might get into top 10 this time next year, we'll see.
Yeah, you never know. I think he could be on your board considering how much you love the guy. But I think we'll leave it on Bronny as we have done before. We'll leave that as our last topic, just so you can keep that in your mind
Right.
as you. Thanks again, lads, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know if you're enjoying some of the new format and stuff with the previews and the draft and some of the transfer talk and stuff. Let us know if you're enjoying all of it, or if there's anything else you'd like to see or something you're not enjoying. We want to hear it all. So appreciate you listening. Shane, throw it to you.
Thanks very much, lads. Just as James said, just keep listening and we'll keep going. Thank you very much. It's really enjoyable to keep doing these things. We'll be chatting anyway, so it's nice to have a camera in front of us where we can just have people judge us on what we're saying instead. So
Yeah,
keep it going. Thanks so much. Keep liking, keep commenting if you want. Give us ideas, as we said before. Whatever you want, just keep engaging and we'll keep engaging as well.
yeah, nice one, lads. Chat to you next week.